of owning a cafe and other heroic deeds by Beware the Tristero. Chapter 139. Jailbreak. Walking behind the Miko sent to escort them to the shrine, their bodies a few feet apart, Shouta couldn't help looking over his shoulder at their entourage. Calming down, being reverent and quiet after their more uproarious ceremony wasn't exactly easy for most of them, was it? However, after bowing at the priests, their wards, and his care center siblings joining them within the shrine, it took them just under an hour to receive their blessings, sign and stamp the official paperwork, and enjoy a more reserved photo shoot, and the artfully cropped gardens, the temple itself, and a few of the lesser shrines dotted around the purple-pathed grounds. Then, their marriage certificate safely stowed away, thanks to Atsuhiro, the group made it a solid 5 paces away from the shrine's impressive torii gate before erupting into laughter, conversations, and song. The rest of their day, blessedly, was going to be spent meandering through the woodland at a leisurely pace in their finery, the lush forest making a stunning backdrop for as many cute photos, silly videos, and fashion shoots as they liked before they'd skirt back around to the hotel for an early evening meal and more pampering. Not that he was complaining. In the lead up to their wedding, all of them had been running around in various ways to secure last-minute issues before traveling, and so, with a smile, he allowed himself to be roped around to stand, pose, and show off his ceremonial garb across various leafy, mossy, and bark-peppered backgrounds. "Hey, look at this clearing! That Toshinori-senpai! Why don't you toss your bouquet here, huh? Whoa! That's such a fun thing to do! Come on, Ji-chan!"
That's a marvelous idea. So long as Tamageko doesn't mind me throwing these lovely sunflowers.
Oh no, that's fine, Ji-san, really. Chuckling, his eyes rolling fondly, he ushered the kids to his side with the other married people and laughed right along with them as Nezu dragged Gran Torino into the assembly of teens and adults, his phone whipped out of his hakama pants, to shooting a video of their antics as Spinner jogging for position with Jen and Jizome.
Okay, everyone, let's count down.
It was also adorable to watch Melissa, Ochako, and Tsuyu assist a blushing David, Sansa, and now Masa into the group, so eagerly awaiting the beautiful bundle of flowers a good 12 feet away from the number one, the girls swiftly retreating as Mimi-chan and her best friend swarmed around the men to ensure they couldn't escape. Seeing Azuhiro and Mirai sharing strategies, whilst Rumi demanded that Keigo grab it out of the air for me, the winged man sheepishly trying to back away from her because, babe, that's like beyond cheating, you know? Made him a little giddy. To see them, their family, this happy and so content was a blessing. 3! The sight of Oboro and Hisashi showing off to Seiji and Tadeo was similarly adorable and ridiculously cute. However, his gaze slanting to the other side of the bouquet catchers, he felt his heart lift when he spotted Yu and Naoki priming their quirks, the blonde woman planting a kiss upon her partner's blushing wooden cheek. Adorable. He was glad that they had each other. He was beyond pleased to know that the frightened little boy he'd tried to soothe to sleep in the hell that was their care center, his tears flowing as he asked how anyone could love someone who looked like him, was content, his psyche stable, his future bright. Such a good kid. 2! Tomoko, Namori, and Ryuko, though, were taking a few steps back. The dragon-quirked young woman had offered to grab the floral display from Midoriya Inko if it flew that way, since the competition seemed to have become more competitive. 1! Then his form crouched down to get a good shot of the throw, with his stunned group its own laughter growing as Mitsuki yelled, "Get in there, In-chan!" whilst Rei similarly cheered her on. 2, her youthful exuberance delighting for Yumi, Matsuo, and Shoto as they looked at her in wonder.
"Here it comes!"
However, just as the blooms were descending,
"What? No fair!"
plumes of fluffy white pooled around the shocked, gawking, and playfully annoyed people, now bumbling and fumbling around in search of the sunflowers that had been lost in the mist.
Aw, Sean, a bit of help here, if you please.
Snickering, he gently removed the vanilla flower Tamaki had given him before igniting his quirk and casting his gaze across the cloud joke field, his ability having landed on Jokester's feet or legs at some point because the air started to clear.
Where is it? Who got it? Where'd it blue blazes is stuck on my head, huh?
Laughing out loud, a few of the tots falling over in their mirth, Shouta was actually struggling to keep his phone steady.
Congratulations, Angie-san. What? Don't just stand there. Someone get this off of me.
Whilst he trained his camera on Gran Torino, who sputtered and flailed, the sunflowers having made a kind of reverse crown, with their stalks flailing in the air as he pawed at the heavy blooms pressed around his head, the petals no doubt tickling his ears, nose, and eyes.
Hold on, Sorahiko. I'll help you. Mimi-chan, thank you. At least someone around here is helpful.
The look of relief on his face when their communal grandmother freed him was similarly adorable.
Oh, looks like we found our next married couple, everyone.
Hooray for Machan and Jin-chan!
The blush he wore even more so. Humming pleasantly, his dinner mostly untouched, Shigaraki placed the uselessly brittle plastic fork he'd been toying with down upon the impeccably clean table he sat at. In a strange way, he'd missed the simplicity of this place. The calmness, the screams, the starkness, the eerie echoes, the rigid timetabling of regimented sleeping, eating, and exercise. Oh yes, it had given him ample opportunity to get some much-needed thinking, plotting, and planning done, hadn't it? It was such a shame in some respects that he'd have to leave such a mess in his wake, wasn't it? Say, Enji-kun, he purred out at a higher volume than what he'd usually use, his senses instantly aware of further cameras pointing his way as he leaned back in his chair, his dull crimson eyes fixed on the two holes in the wall where their food was passed to them and where they, in turn, had to pass their empty trays.
Are you sure this will work?
Watching as the hulking fool balked, that head turning so that hateful turquoise eyes could glare at him, Shigaraki knew that the guards were straightening, a few of them murmuring into the comm system at their wrists. A comm system that dear Garaki had been tapping into since the start of his vacation. A comm system that one too many a loose-lipped employee of this infamous establishment had used in boredom, or to covertly ask favors, or to swap secrets when their superiors were away, their silly little codes so easy to decipher. And loose lips sank ships, didn't they? 3.
I told you to stop talking to me.
2. Oh yes, to ensure that our scheming wasn't discovered. He nodded congenially, a few more worried stares shifting nervously between the others in the room, their fellow inmates similarly becoming nervous. But now that we're actioning it, what's the harm? What? Snickering as all power failed, Shigaraki was up and moving in a blur many would have found hard to see in the light.
Fuck, the comms are down! Everyone stay where you are!
Where are Todoroki and she? Fire! Everyone get down!
Grabbing his living flamethrower, a quick jab with remove quirk activation had that wonderfully powerful power under his direct control.
No!
There, NG. I shouldn't need to harm you if you behave like a good boy, all right? He tittered the scorching flames, making short work of the structurally weaker hatch that was crumbling under the blaze's heat and force. Absent-mindedly, he heard a distinct ping, clang, and twang of bullets harmlessly bouncing off his stolen force field power. How he hoped that those little pieces of metal didn't accidentally injure anyone.
Stop! Stop it!
It won't be long now. Do try to convince our dear warden that you were innocent in this little scheme when you wake up, won't you? He chuckled as, with one final surge of hell flame, the hatch disintegrated completely, allowing him access to an area whose walls weren't nearly thick enough to hold him. Not since he'd had nearly 3 years to recuperate, his meditations allowing him to fine-tune, hone, and develop how to use some of the quirks he'd not had time to investigate fully before he was temporarily defeated by the ever-humble eatery owner and his baby band. Ah, nicely done, my friend, he applauded, the black crimson-laced extension of his fingers retracting, the after-effects of the remote quirk activation draining the poor man into unconsciousness. It is a great pity that I can't take you with me now, but I thank you all the same for your help, he called amid the shouts of the guards. The poor fools, unlike himself, couldn't see in the dark and may have accidentally shot each other or one of the 4 inmates scurrying around in the shadows. Not that he cared about that too much, not at all. For the scum locked in here with him were the kind of abhorrent that even he looked down on, and since the guards wore bulletproof clothing, they should be perfectly fine, shouldn't they? He was sure that the blood he could scent in the air wasn't that pungent. Ta-ta, everyone! Thanks for the memories! And so, humming to himself, his mental clock counting down the time before the backup generators kicked in, he leisurely walked through the molten hole and towards the hatch. Then a flick of his wrist, unleashing a powerful shockwave, he blew the thick metal door away and stepped into the service corridor where a trembling, crying woman was cowering, her fingers jabbing at her useless phone in bewilderment and horror. Jamming any signals coming in and out of the prison had been a little more difficult at first, but thanks to his astral projection developing over the years, he'd been able to communicate with the dear doctor about his wishes for a while now. Bribing a crooked guard to bring in a small, incredibly potent device had been child's play, after all. For what good was money if it didn't get you what you wanted? All inmates of Tartarus, I'm the pro-hero Mandalay, and I am ordering you to stand down, remain where you are, and not use your quirks. Chuckling delightedly, his head shaking ruefully as he walked past the woman and ambled his way down corridor 247B, whilst clicking his tongue to use his pilfered echolocation to see his surroundings. By the roster he'd been covertly slipped, there were only 2 pros in the facility, and their precious technology having failed them, they and the guards outside of the locked door dinner hall had no idea where he was. No idea that he was behind these events. No idea that their power wouldn't return for another 3 minutes, and when it did, the gun turrets would be malfunctioning, the scanners erratically running, beeping, and flashing, the androids jerking and plowing into each other, and the walls... The look on the warden's face would be priceless, wouldn't it?